Welcome to the Penny for Your Thoughts podcast. This is your weekly insight into the small businesses of London. Today we're going to be talking to Mark Wong, who is the founder of Impossibrew, and we're going to be talking all things Dragon's Den, investment and crowdfunding. Hey Mark, thanks for joining us today.
No problem at all.
So, Impossibrew. Shall we chat about how this happened? Been a bit of a whirlwind, especially in the last few months, but let's go right back to the beginning. Where did it start and why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually, there's no sort of complicated story or anything, but for me, the most important thing is I love beer and I love drinking. That's the most important part. And that's really how it started. I just really enjoyed it ever since I was young. And from there, it became a professional passion of mine. I wanted to merge my vocation with my vacation. I started taking degrees in alcohol, all the rest of it, trying to get into the alcohol industry. And that's not non-alcoholic, that's alcohol. And I've been just gearing up to that and just focusing on that my whole life since then. And it was until I had a health scare somewhat. And then because of my liver, I couldn't drink anymore. So that sort of turned my whole dream upside down. The entire thing was shattered. Couldn't go in there. I mean, it doesn't really work if you work in alcohol and you don't drink. And then I had to change what I was doing, which was a bit weird. I didn't realize how much of my social life was around alcohol. When I meet with some friends, I'll just go to the pub. Real nice and simple. But now without that, then everything changed. So it gave me a really fresh new perspective. And I asked myself, what was the reason why you drink in the first place? Was it the taste? Was it the flavor? And I asked myself, probably not. I mean, it's nice. It's a developed, acquired taste for sure. But when you start with drinking, it was really about that feeling, that relaxing sensation that you get. And I tried as many alcohol alternatives out there as I can, and I couldn't get that feeling. So then I was at Durham University at the time. So I started working with a top professor there to really create an alternative that addresses that problem. In some ways, the elephant in the room, to really give you that relaxing sensation through natural sources and whatnot, and just have that alternative. And it was just something that I wanted for myself, quite selfishly, really. And some people liked it, and more people liked it. And then here we are today.
Yeah, this is so cool. It's such a nice story as well. How did you manage to get that how did you get it into a business? Like, did it happen organically or did you really push it?
So I really, when I made some sort of prototypes in my sort of university dorm room, I was brewing there. It was I guess I focused more on that and my studies, and then I just kept brewing and brewing during that period. And from there, I just had some friends that liked it. So I gave it to them to try what I was drinking, because they knew I couldn't drink. So what are you drinking? Gave it to them to try, and they couldn't tell the difference. And I thought, oh, wow, there could be something there. So I went for some university competitions, got some grants. We won a few of those. And then with the money there, and I thought, actually, this could be a bit bigger than just for me. And yeah, it just sort of snowballed from there. More and more people tried it. More people liked it, and then we just started building up the brand.
I know you don't want to give away all of your secrets, but what is the secret ingredient? Like, how do you make it? How do you get that feeling from a non-alcoholic beer?
Mm-hmm. So a good way to start is to not think of it as a non-alcoholic beer. Somewhat, it's actually in one way closer to, say, a Red Bull, weirdly enough, than it is to, say, a Coca-Cola. So the way that it works is that, think about the amount of plants there are so there's about 40,000 plants that have active benefits and offer active effects. And most people don't really know them. And the only ones that we interact with on a day-to-day basis is coffee, caffeine from coffee, and then somewhat alcohol, which is not technically a plant, but it's but alcohol and coffee are the main things that alter our mental state. And out of that array of stuff, there are other things that have been in history for a long time that offer other benefits. So moving down that route, we've been using various different ingredients that impact the brain in a way that is similar to what alcohol does. And one of them comes from green tea, funnily enough. It's the reason why green tea feels a bit different than coffee. When you have a cup of green tea and you have coffee, and you feel like you're a bit more chilled with green tea, even though they have a very similar caffeine content. So we've taken what makes green tea a little bit more relaxing out, removed the caffeine, and just used that aspect and just magnified it. So that's the easiest way to get your head around it. And that's pretty much how it works.
That is so awesome. I would have never have guessed it could be as simple as that. I mean, not that it's that simple.
It's very simple in some ways, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we can't have you on the podcast without talking about Dragon's Den. That would be against the law. So how was that experience? It looks like things have really kicked off for you since. So what was it like? Chat us through the Dragon's Den experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Dragon's Den, I mean, it was quite lucky to start off with. I never thought, it was something I wanted to do probably about 2023, 24, something like that. But then one day we had a producer from BBC reached out and then said she saw the beers, liked them and thought, it could be quite an interesting synergy. So she invited us to go on. And I thought, oh God, we weren't ready at the time. We only had our prototypes. We were selling, just a few, like Sarah Davis said on there, was just a 10 grand test at that point. We were only selling our prototypes. So I was like, it's a once in a lifetime experience. Might as well. Went on and it was a long. So when you see the clip, as shown on the show, that's about a 9 to 11 minute segment. But in reality, it's actually more about an hour and a half. So it was a very long, I guess, a grilling session. And they've just sort of gotten rid of the boring bits of the stats and whatnot, and then cut down to the juicy ones, I guess, in that way. But it was a really fun experience. They offered a lot of great advice. It weren't shown on camera, but a lot of the advice they gave was really, pivotal to what we do. And it's just great. But it was no denying that it was terrifying. So I was good at hiding that I was scared. I think that was it.
Sure. What's the main thing you've taken away from it?
There are quite a few bits, but I'd say the main thing is that the concept of a non-alcoholic beer that offers a relaxing sensation, or even the concept of non-alcoholic beers on their own, aren't as, I guess, prevalent as I thought. It wasn't as sort of self-evident to a lot of people as I thought, because the Dragons have never seen the business before that point, which is something the show made really clear. It was just that they have to see you for the first time. And when they see it, there wasn't that sort of immediate clock in terms of what we do and what it does. So it required quite a bit of explaining. And most of the time with customers, you don't get the privilege of standing in front of them for an hour and to talk through your product. So from there, it showed me that there's still education's going to be one of the biggest parts moving forward from what we do. And it's just to really tell people about the product and educate about how it works and whatnot.
So from Dragon's Den, the Dragons did not invest. However, you have been fundraising since. You was in Crowdcube, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Talk us through that. How's that gone?
Yeah, so we after Dragon's Den, we had we were really lucky. We had 2 angel investors that were customers. But that was before they saw the episode. The episode wasn't aired at that point. They were 2 customers that reached out and just really liked the beers, and they invest. So that carried us on for a little bit longer. And then now we've recently just launched our crowdfunding campaign about actually 10 days ago. And we overfunded in under 10 minutes, which is crazy. We hit our £400,000 target. And now as of now, I think we've got more than 450 investors, and we're up to about 650,000 or so. So it's really crazy to see how many people would like sort of like alcohol disrupted. They would like to see how, to come on this journey and to really change the way the world drinks, and how many people resonated with that. And I'm just so grateful for that.
How are you finding using Crowdcube to fundraise? Because I know that a lot of people can find it a little bit more overwhelming to raise that way, because you obviously end up with 450 investors. Was that did you kind of think twice before doing it, or was it the obvious route that you wanted to take?
Yeah, so it's a good question because I was warned against going crowdfunding for a long time. Like, with a lot of different founders that I spoke to, some of them say, it's a difficult route. You could have a messy cap table, and so on and so forth. But then, of course, now crowdfunding is completely different to what it was before. The cap table is not going to be an issue anymore. But it's just a matter of whether you can, I guess, pull it off in that way, because it's really difficult. It's more because you're dealing with so many people without having a direct conversation with them. Whereas if you're with angel investors, you'd be speaking to them sort of one-to-one. And this is it's more difficult. But I think from day one, being community built has been part of our brand since the start. I'm not sure whether you saw my sort of LinkedIn story. I think a few months back. I messed up my branding. We've made some bad decisions in terms of where we allocated our resources, and it was our customers that came in and saved us. Right? It was we kept using polls and kept getting our customers to engage and give us feedback about what to do and where to go. Because fundamentally, it is the customer's product. It's not our product. It's a product for people other than myself. And moving from that, as it's built from a community, it makes sense to give it back and to give our community a chance to own a piece of the business. And so it just made sense for us from that point of view.
Yeah, totally. And so you are a bit of an industry disruptor. I guess it's fair to say that you're one of the first in the space, making a mood enhancing alcohol-free beer, making it a bit more fun and exciting, shall we say. Where do you see the industry going in the next couple of years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the low and no trend has been going on for quite a while. I guess it's a not a piggyback, but I guess it benefited synergistically from the sort of mega health trend, especially from COVID and everything, that people are a lot more aware of what they put into their bodies and want to stay a bit healthier. So low and no alcohol seems to be a really good segue to that. But there's a clear philosophy that we see the market with, and it comes with it's the concept of alcohol-free 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. 1.0 being the good old days, the sort of not so good old days actually. The sort of Beck's Blue, the sort of Caliber, the really old school non-alcoholic beers that's what gave the industry a sort of bad rep. And then now we've got the 2.0 with fantastic products, right? We've got craft products coming out from a lot of different craft producers. They're quite a bit better tasting than they were before. But where we see the future going is alcohol-free 3.0. It's the same sort of evolution that plant-based products have gone through, where they go from sort of tofu and then to meat alternative and like true sort of meat alternatives. We see it in the 3.0 space with functionality, with offering more than just flavor alone. Because ultimately, our mission is quite simple: is to create the world's most complete alternative to alcohol. And to do that, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, which was the way you feel. And with customers now asking, what does this do for me? It's going to be a really important part moving forward. And funnily enough, one of the latest studies that Mintel, one of the global market research insight firms, they've released a study on how 60% of 18 to 34s would now would be encouraged to drink low and no alcohol if it offered relaxation. And that's 60%. And which blew my mind, and it confirmed our thesis that this is something that the industry cannot just ignore.
Moving on to the final question, which is always the one left by the previous guest. So Jess wants to know, how do you deal with rejection of your product as an entrepreneur? What's your attitude?
We haven't been rejected. I'm joking. No. There's quite a bit of that, of course. Transcend's one of them, and obviously at the very early stages, and even today, it's not to everybody's taste. So it does happen. Rather than to say deal with it, I'd say it's the thing we actually seek. A lot of time with every part of our communication with our customers, we always ask them not really for compliments, but for constructive criticism, because for rejection is what lets you grow, because there's no amount of people say, oh, your product's great. Although that feels fantastic. And it feels like your rewards have sort of really come to fruition, like with all your hard work and whatnot. But then with rejection and with all the failures there, that's what made us grow. It was what really catapulted us forward and showed us the sort of pain points and showed us the bits that aren't working to really improve that. So I'd say, rather than deal with it, say embrace it in that way. Those are the best bits, and it's stuff that money can't buy. So rejection's actually fantastic in that way, especially of your product.
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome attitude to have. I feel like it's a very entrepreneurial outlook. It makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people will be sat there thinking, yeah, I need to do that too. Okay, well, cool. Thanks so much for joining us today, Mark. This has been an amazing
Thank you
chat.
very much.
And we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye bye.